I did not wake up because of a noise. I woke up because the room felt occupied. At exactly 3,000 in the morning, my eyes opened without warning, my heart already racing, as if my body knew something my mind had not yet caught up to. The house was silent. No creaking floors, no open doors, no alarms. But there was another presence in my bed. I lay completely still, listening to a second breathing pattern. Slow, deliberate, unfamiliar. Close enough that I could feel the warmth of it against my arm. I have lived alone for 12 years. No visitors, no late-night guests. No reason for anyone to be there. And yet, someone was. When I finally turned my head, expecting perhaps a dream or a hallucination brought on by age or exhaustion, I instead found myself staring into a pair of eyes that reflected the dim blue glow of the clock beside my bed. Eyes that were not human. That was the moment I understood something deeply unsettling. Whatever was lying next to me had not broken into my house. It had chosen me. For several long seconds, I did not move. At my age, you learn the difference between panic and survival. Panic wastes time. Survival observes. The breathing beside me remained steady, slow, controlled, deliberate. Not the shallow rhythm of sleep, but the measured cadence of someone who was awake, waiting. I flexed my fingers beneath the blanket. My hand brushed against skin that was warmer than my own, smoother, unfamiliar in a way that instantly confirmed what I already knew. This was not a dream. I cleared my throat quietly, testing whether my voice would obey me. "Who's there?" I asked. The figure beside me shifted ever so slightly. The mattress dipped under her weight, far more than a human frame should have caused. "I was hoping," a woman's voice replied softly, "that you would wake on your own." Her words were calm. Not whispered, not threatening. Just honest. I reached for the lamp on the nightstand, my fingers hovering inches from the switch. "You may turn on the light," she said, "but please understand. Once you do, you cannot pretend this did not happen." That stopped me. The light clicked on. She sat up slowly, deliberately, as if she were the guest and I the fragile one. She was tall, impossibly so, her head nearly brushing the headboard as she straightened. Pale skin caught the yellow glow of the lamp, reflecting it faintly, as though light behaved differently around her. Long, dark hair spilled over her shoulders, framing a face that was unmistakably feminine, yet profoundly other. Her eyes held mine. No fear, no aggression. Only a careful, searching curiosity. "I mean you no harm," she said. "But I understand why you would not believe that." My gaze dropped, just briefly, to her mouth. Her lips parted as she breathed, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too precise, and entirely unsuited for human comfort. I sat back against the headboard. "Well," I said quietly, surprised at my own composure, "you certainly picked the wrong house if you were looking for excitement." Something like amusement flickered across her face. "You are calm," she observed. "That is uncommon." "I've had time to practice," I replied. "Now tell me the truth." She tilted her head, studying me as one might study a relic, not with condescension, but with reverence. "The truth," she said at last, "is that I was injured, I was pursued, and you were alone." That answer settled heavily between us. "And," I asked, "what exactly are you?" Her eyes darkened slightly. "I am what your people once called a vampire," she said. Though that word does us a great disservice. The house remained quiet. No alarms. No sirens. Just an aging man and something ancient sitting together at the edge of a bed, while the rest of the world slept completely unaware. I did not ask her to leave. That realization came to me only later, once the weight of the moment had settled. Instead, I reached for my glasses on the nightstand and put them on, as if clearer vision might somehow make her more understandable. She noticed. "You use artificial lenses," she said. "Your eyes have weakened." "Everything weakens eventually," I replied. "That doesn't make it useless." Her gaze lingered on me, thoughtful. You speak like one who has accepted limitation, she said. Yet you do not sound defeated. I gestured toward the chair across the room. If we're going to talk, you might as well sit somewhere that doesn't imply you plan to stay the night. A faint smile touched her lips. As you wish. She rose from the bed with a smoothness that made my joints ache in sympathy and crossed the room in 3 long strides. When she sat, the wooden chair creaked in protest, another small confirmation that she was undeniably real. My name, she said, folding her hands in her lap, cannot be shaped properly by your vocal cords, but you may call me Saris. Fair enough, I said. I'm Daniel, she repeated it slowly, tasting the sound. Daniel. A name passed down through generations. You've done your homework. We observe before we engage, she replied. Engagement without understanding often leads to extinction, that was said gently, which somehow made it worse. I took a breath. You said you were injured. I don't see any blood. She inclined her head. Your species associates injury with visible loss. Ours is subtler. She placed a hand against her chest, just above where her heart should have been. My internal energy reserves are depleted. Had I not found shelter, I would not have survived the night. And you chose my house because you live alone, she said simply. Because you are predictable. And because your emotional output is stable. I raised an eyebrow. My what? She hesitated, searching for words. You radiate less fear than most, she said. Less anger, less noise. That stung more than I expected. Widowers, I said, tend to settle into a quieter frequency. Her expression softened. Yes, she said. I sensed a profound absence here. The room grew heavy with unspoken understanding. Let's be clear, I said at last. You appear in my bed in the middle of the night, tell me you're not human, and claim you're injured. What exactly do you want from me? She met my gaze without hesitation. I want permission, she said. To do what? To remain, she replied. Briefly, and to draw a small amount of energy from you, not enough to harm, only enough to survive. I laughed then. Not loudly. Just once. Well, I said, that's a sentence I never expected to hear. She did not smile. Your consent matters, she said. Without it, I will leave, and I will likely perish before dawn. I studied her face, the stillness, the restraint, the complete lack of coercion. You could take it anyway, I said. Yes, she agreed. But then I would be no better than the monsters your stories warned you about. Silence settled between us again. I thought of my wife, of the years we shared, of how fragile life was, no matter the species. All right, I said finally, you can stay. But we do this on my terms. Her shoulders relaxed, just slightly. Accepted, she said. And one more thing, I added. No more surprises in my bed. That time, she smiled. She did not feed right away. That should have reassured me. Instead, it made me uneasy. Cirrus stood near the window, staring out into the darkness beyond the glass, as though the night itself were speaking to her. For a long while, neither of us said anything. The house, my quiet, ordinary house, felt suddenly inadequate, like a paper shelter against something vast and uncaring. You said your kind were called vampires, I said at last. That word comes with baggage. She nodded slowly. Yes, she said. Fear tends to survive longer than truth. She turned to face me, and for the first time since I'd woken, her composure faltered. Not fear, but something older. Your stories describe us as predators, she continued. Immortal. Soulless. Dependent on blood. And you're saying that's wrong. I am saying it is incomplete. She gestured toward the chair and waited until I sat before continuing, as if this next part required my full attention. My people are known as the Valari, she said. We do not consume flesh. We do not drink blood. We feed on bioelectrical resonance, the living energy produced by conscious beings. I frowned. Thoughts, emotion, she corrected, intent. Will, she tapped her temple lightly. Fear is the easiest to harvest. It burns brightly, chaotically, and requires little effort. That explained the legends. But fear corrodes us, she went on. It shortens our lives, warps our minds. So why do it? Because most species offer little else. She looked at me then, truly looked at me, and I felt, absurdly, like I was being weighed. Humans are different. I let out a quiet breath. You have a funny way of showing it. She ignored the comment. Your species produces an unusual resonance, she said. You feel deeply, even when it harms you. Love, grief, loyalty, defiance. These emotions are dense. Efficient? I asked, her lips curved faintly. Potent. I thought of my wife again, of the long nights after her death, of the ache that never quite left. You feed on that? I asked quietly. No, Sarah said at once. Not feed. We synchronize. She placed a hand over her chest. When I draw energy from fear, it is like consuming fire. When I draw from what you generate, she hesitated. It is like standing near a star. The room felt colder. Then why are you injured? I asked. Her eyes darkened. Because others have noticed, she explained then. The galaxy was not empty. It was layered with civilizations, some ancient, some new, most fragile. The Velari had once been guardians, mediators between species. But power invites envy. Another race, the Karuan, had learned how to harvest fear on an industrial scale. Entire worlds reduced to terror farms. And now? I asked. And now, she said softly, they have turned their attention toward your world. The words landed like a physical blow. Earth? I said. Why Earth? She met my gaze. Because your species does not break easily, she said. And because fear harvested from humans is extraordinary. I stood up, suddenly unable to remain seated. You're telling me aliens are coming to farm us like livestock? Yes. And you came here, I said slowly, to hide? No, she corrected. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel that strange warmth again. I came because humans represent something the galaxy has not seen in a very long time, she said. What's that? She did not answer immediately. Instead, she reached out, carefully, deliberately, and placed her fingertips against my wrist. The contact was gentle, and then I felt it. Not pain, not weakness, not weakness. A subtle pressure, like a deep current beneath calm water. Memories stirred, not stolen, not replayed, but acknowledged. My love, my losses. My stubborn refusal to surrender to bitterness. Sarah gasped softly and pulled her hand away. You endure, she whispered, even when no one is watching. She looked at me with something dangerously close to reverence. That, she said, is why your species terrifies them. I swallowed. And me? I asked. What am I to you? Her answer was immediate. You are proof, she said, that humanity is not weak, merely underestimated. The clock ticked loudly on the wall. Outside, the world slept on, unaware that it had just been noticed by the wrong things and defended by the right one. Saris withdrew her hand, but the air between us remained charged, as if something fundamental had been acknowledged and could not be undone. You misunderstand us, she said finally. Nearly every species does. I crossed my arms, more for steadiness than defiance. Then explain. She moved back toward the chair but did not sit. Instead, she paced slowly, like a lecturer choosing her words with care. In the wider galaxy, she began, survival is measured by efficiency. The species that endure are those that waste the least energy, emotionally, biologically, culturally. That doesn't sound so bad, I said. It is disastrous, she replied. She stopped and looked at me. Efficiency breeds stagnation. She told me of civilizations that had mastered their environment so completely they no longer struggled. No hunger, no scarcity, no conflict, no growth. They optimized themselves into irrelevance, Sarah said. When threatened, they froze. When injured, they collapsed. They had never learned how to continue while broken. I felt a dull recognition settle in my chest. And humans? I asked. She gave a short, humorless laugh. Humans are catastrophically inefficient. I raised an eyebrow. You grieve, she continued, for years. You form attachments that weaken you. You cling to memories, traditions, and individuals long after logic says you should let go. That doesn't sound terrifying, I said. Her eyes sharpened. It is, she said, because you do it anyway. She turned toward the bookshelf, running her fingers lightly across the spines. Your species does not adapt by eliminating pain, she said. You adapt by enduring it. She looked back at me. You lose limbs and build tools. You lose homes and build nations. You lose worlds and you remember them. The room felt smaller. When the Karuan invade a world, she said, most species respond predictably, panic, fragmentation, submission. And humans don't? No, Sarah said quietly. Humans argue. I almost smiled. You question authority. You resist consensus. You disagree even in the face of extinction. She paused. And then, she added, you cooperate. That earned a real smile from me. Eventually, I said. Yes, she agreed. Eventually. She explained how human history appeared to outside observers, a species that repeatedly should have destroyed itself, yet somehow extracted strength from its own failures. You turn desperation into innovation, she said. Your wars produce horrors, and then laws. Your disasters produce grief, and then resilience. And fear? I asked. Her expression darkened. Fear strengthens you, she said, briefly. And then it angers you. She faced me fully now. The Karuan do not understand this, she said. They believe fear is the end of the process. I felt something cold settle behind my ribs. And they're wrong. Yes, Sarah said. Fear is merely the beginning. She stepped closer. When humans realize they are being hunted, she said, they do not hide. They prepare. They remember, she continued. They tell stories. They warn their children. They turn memory into armor. Her voice dropped. That is why the galaxy fears you. I exhaled slowly. And what about you? I asked. Your people. She hesitated. We avoided humans for a long time, she admitted. Your unpredictability made you dangerous. But now? Now, she said, meeting my gaze, you are necessary. The implication hung heavy in the air. You're saying we're going to fight, I said. She nodded. And you think we can win? I think, she said carefully, that humans are the only species I know who would refuse to lose, even when the odds make no sense. The clock struck 3:42 a.m. Dawn was still hours away. And somewhere beyond the stars, something ancient and cruel was finally beginning to understand that Earth was not prey. It was a mistake. For a long while after Sarah's finished speaking, neither of us said anything. The house had settled into its familiar nighttime sounds. The low hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of the clock, the distant hiss of wind through bare branches. All the small, ordinary noises of a life that had never expected to matter beyond its own walls. You should leave, I said finally. The word surprised us both. Sarah stiffened. I can. Not because you're not welcome, I interrupted. Because if what you're saying is true, then staying here puts you at risk, and eventually it puts me at risk too. She studied me carefully, as if trying to determine whether this was fear or something else. You wish to preserve your safety, she said. I shook my head. No, I wish to preserve my choice. That gave her pause. You see, I continued, I've lived long enough to know that danger finds you whether you invite it or not. The only real decision is whether you meet it standing or pretending it isn't there. She lowered herself into the chair slowly. My people, she said, would not make that calculation. They would flee. I know, I said. Most people would. I walked to the window and looked out at the darkened street. Every house was asleep. Every life intact. For now. When my wife died, I said quietly, I had a choice then too. I could have closed myself off completely. Let the world shrink until nothing could hurt me again. I turned back to her. I didn't. I survived. And survival, I've learned, carries obligations. Cirrus stood. You owe us nothing, she said. Your species owes us nothing. That's where you're wrong, I replied. We owe ourselves something. She searched my face. What are you choosing, she asked. I took a breath that felt heavier than any I'd drawn in years. I'm choosing not to be surprised when the moment comes, I said. I'm choosing to make sure we're not caught unaware. And if that means listening to someone the rest of the world would call impossible, I gestured toward her. Then so be it. Her voice was very quiet when she spoke again. This choice will cost you, she said. You will lose what remains of your anonymity, your peace. I smiled faintly. I lost my peace a long time ago, I said. What I have now is time. And I'm willing to spend it. Sarah stepped closer. You would stand between your world and the Karu-Un, she asked. If standing is all I can do, I said, then yes. Something changed in her expression then. Not relief, not gratitude, but recognition. You are older than most warriors, she said. Why do this? I thought for a moment. Because, I said, I've already buried the person I love most. If something is coming for the people I still care about, my neighbors, my grandchildren, people who don't even know they're in danger, then I refuse to meet my end knowing I did nothing. The clock ticked. Saris bowed her head. Then hear me, she said. Once this path is chosen, there is no withdrawal. I nodded. I'm aware, she straightened. Very well, she said. Then we begin. Begin what? I asked. She met my eyes, and for the first time since she appeared in my bed, there was no uncertainty in her voice. Preparing your species, she said, to be underestimated no longer. Outside, the night remained quiet. But the future had just changed direction. Not with a battle, not with a scream, but with a single, deliberate human decision to stand. The world did not change all at once. That was the first lesson Saris taught me. Civilizations rarely fall or rise in a single moment, she said. They shift. Quietly, while most are still arguing about whether change is necessary at all. By sunrise, she was gone from the bedroom, not vanished, but relocated to the spare room, where the windows were smaller and the curtains thicker. She insisted on it, explaining that her physiology reacted poorly to prolonged direct sunlight. I made coffee. The normalcy of it felt almost defiant. How do we warn them? I asked, setting a mug down in front of her. Carefully, she replied, and not all at once. Saris explained that open declarations, landings, broadcasts, public displays had failed on countless worlds. They bred hysteria, disbelief, or violence before preparation could even begin. Your species is not unified, she said, but it is communicative. That is your strength. So we start small. She nodded. The first calls were to people I already knew. Former colleagues, an old friend in academia, a retired defense analyst who still answered his phone out of habit more than obligation. I did not speak of aliens or invasions. Not yet. I spoke of patterns, anomalies in satellite data, unexplained atmospheric readings, statistical irregularities in deep space telemetry, things that could not be dismissed outright, but also could not be explained easily. Humans, I knew, would chase unanswered questions like bloodhounds. Cirrus provided the data, redacted, limited, deliberately incomplete. Enough to provoke curiosity, not panic. They must believe they found it themselves, she said. Within a week, conversations became meetings. Meetings became closed-door discussions. What you're suggesting is improbable, one man told me over a secure video call. So was heavier than air flight, I replied. Saris remained off camera, listening. Not everyone believed. Some laughed. Some accused me of chasing ghosts. But not all. Scientists asked for more data. Analysts noticed correlations.
Is it stable enough
Quiet
for intervention?
inquiries
We must
began
act now
moving
before
through
it
channels
escalates.
that were
Agreed. I'll
never
prepare
meant
the
to be
team.
visible to the public. That one, Sarah said once, watching a particular official speak, will listen. He has buried friends. It became a pattern. Those who had lost something listened hardest. Eventually, the question was asked outright. If this is real, a woman said during one late-night call, why hasn't anyone noticed before? I looked at Saris. Because, she said through me, her words carefully chosen, you were never meant to. Silence followed. Then, show us. She did. Not a landing. Not a spectacle. A brief distortion in a radar feed. A controlled energy fluctuation detected by 3 independent systems. A presence that left no room for coincidence. The room went very quiet. If this is hostile, someone whispered, we're already too late. No, I said. We're early. That was the turning point. Task forces formed under names that meant nothing to the public. Budgets shifted quietly. Old contingency plans were dusted off and rewritten from scratch. Saris observed it all with something like awe. You organize faster than most species at war, she said. And you are not even convinced yet. That's how we do things, I told her. We argue until the last possible moment, and then we move. And the people? She asked. They don't need to know yet, I said. Not until there's something they can do besides panic. She considered that. Your leaders will fail, she said. Some of them. I know, I replied. They always do. Outside my small house, the neighborhood remained unchanged. Lawns were mowed. Children waited for school buses. Life went on, blissfully unaware that Earth had just been reclassified, not as a backwater, not as prey, but as a problem worth solving carefully. And far beyond the reach of our telescopes, the Karun continued their approach, still convinced that fear would finish the work for them. They had not yet learned the most dangerous thing about humanity. We do our best work before anyone realizes we're at war. The Karun arrived without ceremony. No grand armada appeared in Earth's skies. No declaration was transmitted. They did not believe one was necessary. Their vessels remained beyond the orbit of the moon, invisible to the naked eye, drifting like patient hunters who had learned long ago that prey defeated itself more efficiently than any weapon ever could. Saris felt them before any instrument did. They are here, she said quietly one evening, standing beside me as the sun set beyond the trees. What happens now? I asked. Now, she replied, they begin to whisper. The first effects were subtle. An unexplained rise in anxiety-related hospital visits.
What specific regions
spikes
are you
in
indicating?
insomnia.
The highlighted areas require
An
immediate
increase in
strategic attention.
violence that analysts could not trace to any single cause. Fear applied gently. Precisely. This is how they soften a world, Saris explained. They let you tear yourselves apart. But something unexpected happened. Humans noticed. Doctors compared notes. Sociologists flagged anomalies. Data scientists mapped emotional disturbances the way meteorologists track storms. The pattern was undeniable. Fear had a source. And once humans identify a problem, we do not merely endure it. We adapt. The countermeasures were not weapons, not at first. They were routines. Communities were encouraged to connect. Veteran outreach programs expanded overnight. Emergency communication networks were tested and refined under the guise of disaster preparedness. Hope, it turned out, could be engineered too. The Karun escalated. They intensified the pressure, flooding the planet with dread, despair, and isolation, the psychic equivalent of a siege. And humanity did something no other species ever had. We got angry. Not chaotic anger. Focused anger. "We will not be cattle," one general said during a closed briefing. "We will not be afraid in silence." Saris watched in astonishment as human scientists, working across rival nations, old grudges temporarily forgotten, began to design systems that didn't block fear, but recycled it. Human neural patterns, Saris revealed, did something extraordinary under sustained stress. They didn't collapse. They resonated. By synchronizing emotional states through shared purpose, broadcasts, rituals, music, shared narratives, humans created feedback loops the Karun could not feed on. Fear transmuted into resolve. Resolve burned. The first Karuan vessel faltered. Its energy collectors overloaded, unable to process the emotional spectrum they had never learned to metabolize. Then, another. Then, several more. "They don't understand you," Saris whispered, eyes wide. "You are poisoning them." Humanity did not stop. We pushed. Signals were broadcast, not threats, not boasts, but declarations of identity, stories of survival, of loss endured and meaning preserved, of stubborn hope in the face of extinction. The psychic pressure reversed. The hunters became the hunted. Within days, the Karuan withdrew, not defeated in battle, but broken in confidence. Their doctrine had failed. Earth was not a farm. It was a forge. In the aftermath, no celebrations were held, no parades. The world simply exhaled. Life resumed, altered but intact. I stood at my window one night, the stars unchanged, and felt a presence beside me. "You have altered the balance," Saris said. "We didn't win," I replied. "Not permanently." She nodded. "No species ever does. But," I continued, "they'll think twice before coming back. They will fear you," she said. I smiled faintly. "Good," I said. "Fear can be educational." Saris looked at me then, not as an observer, not as a guardian, but as an equal. "Humanity," she said, "is the most dangerous thing the galaxy has ever misunderstood." And somewhere in the dark between stars,
we must
that
talk
truth
about what
was
happened.
spreading, faster than fear ever could.
I'm listening.
The night eventually returned to being just a night. No alarms, no warnings, no sense of something watching from beyond the sky, just quiet. I woke again at 3:07 a.m., out of habit more than fear, the digital clock glowing softly in the darkness. The house felt the way it always had, settled, familiar, carrying the gentle weight of years lived honestly. Saris lay beside me. Not intruding, not looming, simply present. She had learned over time how humans slept, how we needed space, how closeness meant comfort rather than possession. One of her hands rested atop the blanket between us, never crossing a boundary she hadn't been invited past. "You are still uneasy," she said softly without opening her eyes. "No," I replied after a moment, "just aware." She turned her head slightly, studying my face in the dim light. "The galaxy will not forget what happened here," she said. "Neither will my people." "I wouldn't expect it to," I said. "We didn't do this to be remembered." "That," she said, "is exactly why you will be." I lay there, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing, different from mine, but not uncomfortable. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Somewhere down the street, a porch light clicked off. Ordinary life, continuing. "Will they come back?" I asked. "Eventually," Saris said. "Curiosity always returns. And next time," she smiled, a small, genuine thing. "Next time," she said, "they will come prepared." I considered that, then nodded. "So will we." She closed her eyes. For the first time since my wife passed, the bed did not feel empty, nor did it feel crowded. It felt shared in a way that carried no expectation beyond trust. An old man. An alien woman. two witnesses to a moment when humanity refused to be afraid. Sleep came easily after that, and if I woke again at 3 a.m., it was no longer to fear what lay beside me, but to remember that even in a quiet house, on an unremarkable street, the fate of worlds can rest gently between two heartbeats.